After 30-year-old Eric Miller died of acute arsenic poisoning, police were looking for leads. When they checked Eric's wife's computer, they discovered that Ann had been carrying on an email relationship with a married co-worker named Daryl Willard.
Middle of October until the time of Eric Miller's death, there was just an explosion of communication, all indicators that something was going on between Daryl Willard and Ann Miller. And one of the things that we had put an early priority on was finding out exactly what kind of relationship this was.
Daryl Willard and Ann Miller worked in the same laboratory, and the colleagues noticed that she was paying attention to him and that he was enjoying that attention.
And in the lab where they worked, another troubling discovery.
They had arsenic pretty much everywhere, and they treated it like dishwashing liquid because that's what they used it for, was to cleanse lab glassware.
Detectives also learned that Daryl Willard had been one of the guys who went bowling with Eric Miller on the night he was poisoned.
And then, lo and behold, turns out Daryl Willard bought a pitcher of beer and gave individual cups of beer to Eric and the other people who bowled that night.
Did Daryl Willard poison Eric so he could be with Ann? And was Ann also involved? Investigators accessed Ann's phone record. In the months leading up to Eric's death, Ann had made dozens of calls to Daryl, spending nearly 10 hours on the phone with him.
Ann had been bold enough to actually call Daryl Willard's house at odd hours. 11 o'clock at night, 4:30 a.m.
In fact, just 2 hours before Eric died, Ann had called Daryl from outside Eric's hospital room.
Your husband is in intensive care, near death. Why in the hell are you calling a coworker and spending over 30 minutes on the phone with him? That painted a picture of what was going on, and in turn painted Ann Miller as having been involved in the death of her husband.
Most people believe that she really wasn't interested in having an affair with Daryl Willard because she was in love with him, but because she felt she could use Daryl Willard to help her kill her husband.
And it looked like that was exactly what she did. Investigators kept a low profile until after Eric's funeral, but when it was over, they called Ann asking her to come in for an interview. The calls went unanswered. Detectives turned to Eric's family members.
We all were interviewed by the police extensively, and they did ask us, was there any possibility that Ann could be responsible or play a part in Eric's death? And we all denied it. There is no way that Ann could be responsible. It wasn't even, a flash of a possibility.
They were just furious that the police department was looking at Ann and say, well, you need to go out and find whoever did this. Well, all the fingers pointed at Ann.
To get to the truth, detectives paid Daryl Willard a visit.
I say, Daryl, I've got a warrant to search your house. I want to talk to you for a minute. You've been used. You've been used by a woman, Daryl. The only thing he says, the exact words, yeah, and she's done a really good job of it.
But Daryl was done talking to police. Instead, he said he needed to talk to his attorney. The next day, an unexpected development.
Breaking news, a body has been discovered in a residential neighborhood.
All of a sudden, a flurry of activity out in the squad room. What in the hell's going on? They're out at Daryl Willard's house. They found a body in his garage. It's him.
Daryl had shot himself in the head with his own revolver. Police contacted his attorney, but client-attorney confidentiality prevented the lawyer from sharing any information Daryl had told him. Investigators' only hope of getting a first-hand account of what happened to Eric Miller died with Darrell. The case was stalled. But life went on, at least for Ann Miller. 2 months after all the men in her life had died, it was time for a change. So Ann moved 2 hours away to Wilmington.
She did not want to be in Raleigh, North Carolina, where people clearly believed she had killed her husband.
Ann got a new job, whole new line of work. She's working in interior design. She's got a new boyfriend. Everything's looking good for Ann.
I have nothing to say.
Wonder how she forgot that her husband was poisoned and she hadn't called anybody with the police department to see if we'd made any progress in the investigation since the night that her husband died.
And that didn't sit well with Eric's family either. Remember the phone call with Ann and her sister-in-law, Pam?
You're not the one that has media chasing you down. You're not the one that drives around dark alleys trying to get into your home. I can't keep on living like this. I want it over.
But, if you would just, talk to the police and talk to people, they wouldn't be thinking all this stuff.
There's an old saying, you can move, but your problems will just move with you. Well, that's exactly what happened to Ann when the medical examiner released the results of Eric Miller's autopsy.
Eric Miller had been given large doses of arsenic, at least a couple of which had been administered to him while he was in the hospital. So in other words, somebody is still pumping arsenic into Eric Miller even after he goes in the hospital.
And the only person who had access to arsenic and Eric at the hospital was his wife, Ann. But there was no way to prove it.
I hate to see people get away with murder. I just can't abide by it.
Detectives kept the case alive, and after 4 frustrating years, they finally got the break they needed. In September of 2004, the State Supreme Court of North Carolina issued an order. They demanded that Darrell Willard's lawyer give police access to the privileged information Darrell had shared with him before his death. It was enough to finally arrest Ann Miller, but she had no idea what the police knew, and she wouldn't until her court appearance on December 10th, 2004.
Ann walked into that courtroom. This woman thought she was walking in and she was going to be released.
Here's where it gets good. The assistant DA reads from Darrell Willard's interview statement.
She was by herself in the room with Mr. Miller for a period of time. She then told Mr. Willard that she took a syringe and a needle from her purse and injected the contents of the syringe into Mr. Miller's IV.
In that moment, she deflated like a balloon, and she knew that she wasn't getting out. And she didn't.
On December 2nd, 2005, Ann Miller pled guilty to second-degree murder.